Hey, you want to go to war? You want a war? You're going to get one.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Welcome to New Independence Network. I'm your host, Brett Hightower, back again. It is the War on Conservatives, Day 5, C-Day plus 5. The war on conservatives has begun. It began. The hot war began with the attempted assassination of President Trump. We tried to keep it at a Cold War status, but now, with the death of Charlie Kirk, we're at war. Folks, we are at war, an ideological war. We are at a philosophical war. We're at a religious war, and we're at a policy war with the left. They're beyond saving. They're beyond negotiations. The left have gone so extreme. The vast majority are out of their minds and have declared war on conservatives. And it all started heavily with Barack Obama. It all started with him. Everything he did was designed by his background as a community organizer. And there's no coincidence that Antifa and Black Lives Matter all formulated under Obama's reign. It's no surprise. There's no mystery to it. Why is there no mystery? Because that's what he was. He was a community organizer. He loved to disrupt the status quo. He loved to start trouble with civil dissent. His career was born in the living room of Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dohrn. Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dohrn were the members of the Weather Underground, a domestic terrorist radical organization. That is what Obama is. He is a radical. He's an extremist. And there's no coincidence that he stayed in Washington. The only president after his presidency was over to actually take up residence in Washington, D.C., because he wanted to control the policy that went on. He wanted Biden as a puppet put in there so he can control everything. This is his third term. You see, Obama did not have, if you look at what Obama was doing, his first term, he was the hope and change president. Hope and change. So everything Obama did in his first term, he had to get elected for a second term. So he wasn't going to rock the boat too much and make too many drastic changes. He had his hints. He put those out there, like saying that we're not a Christian nation. There's a war against God right there. We're not a Christian nation when we are a Christian nation. Okay? So first there's that. And then there's the cops acted stupidly, creating the war on police, and then inciting the race war with Trayvon Martin. If I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon. When Trayvon Martin was not a 12-year-old cherubic young boy, he was a 17-year-old crunk-face-filled adult, 6'3", who had pictures of himself flipping off the camera and brandishing a firearm. Okay? So, no. Trayvon Martin was not some innocent cherub as the media portrayed him. And that's media propaganda. But on top of everything else, Barack Obama started to change the way the government is presented to the people. Let me explain that to you. Obama, well, we'll get to that. Obama hit his second term, and he wanted to preserve his legacy. Okay? So he knew the economy was in the toilet. He wasn't going to fix that. He didn't try to fix that. He didn't want to do. He wanted to destroy the American economy, make us dependent upon international markets. Okay, he wanted us to be dependent upon China, Russia, other countries, but not. He wanted to destroy American business and American oil and energy production. That was his second term. Then Trump came in, and they weren't expecting that. They were hoping it would be Hillary Clinton. She can carry the torch and do what he told her to do, because they gave her that Senate or the Secretary of State seat. Okay, they gave that to Hillary Clinton to appease her and build her resume because she was supposed to run against John McCain. She was the heir apparent. And they said, look, we got this guy, to quote Joe Biden, black, clean, good-looking, and can speak well, right? Basically, a very racist definition of Barack Obama. But they had him, and they said, this guy's a blank slate. And he appeared out of nowhere. Out of nowhere, here's a guy that no one knew existed. Never saw him in politics before. Suddenly, poof, he's a keynote speaker at the Republican National Convention or Democrat National Convention. Then poof, he's a state senator in Illinois. And then poof, he's a U.S. senator from Illinois. Just by chance, both of his opposition candidates, both running against him, had to leave the election, the race, for some scandal. So there he goes, magically ascending the throne, okay? Then he becomes president. Now he's put up as president. They say to Hillary Clinton, hey, look, we got this guy here. We need to use him because he's going to get the black vote. And he did. He got 98% of the black vote. Okay, so he knew. So we've been trying to control the black Americans forever. Since slavery, we had control of them. We had control of them. We tried to maintain control through segregation. We founded the KKK. We need to have full control over them. We put them in inner cities. We put them in the projects. We held them at bay. LBJ kept them reliant upon the government with food stamps and welfare and government subsidies. They did it on purpose to destroy black America and destroy the black family. And to destroy the black family, they did so because they said, hey, look, the more kids you have without a father, the more money you get from welfare. So we have these childless mothers having sex with random men on a regular basis, and the more kids they have, the more money they get. That's what they did. That's what they did. So Obama is part of that machine. And they wanted somebody they could control and also use as a leader. So they put him in and told Hillary, you got to do the right thing. Step aside. Take a bullet for the team. We'll take care of you if you step aside. She stepped aside, and they made her Secretary of State. So she was the heir apparent. After Obama was gone, she was going to be the president. So we had the first black president, Democrat, and then the first female president was supposed to be Hillary. But they didn't expect it for Trump. They didn't expect Donald Trump to come in and upset the apple cart. And what it is he's an outsider. He's an outsider to the establishment because Democrats and Republicans, they march lockstep. Basically, they do. Your establishment Republicans and your Democrats march lockstep. They don't care what happens to the country. They only care about their own power, their own wealth, and their own control. Trump changed that, and they couldn't deal with it, so they tried to destroy the man. But once they got rid of him and used COVID to steal the election in 2020, which they did, I'll talk about that in another show because that's a whole long kettle of fish that I can uncover there. But yes, they absolutely used COVID for control of the masses, the destruction of private industry, private ownership of businesses, and to steal the election, which they did. They stole the election and they put Biden in. And this is where Obama is having his third term. And this is the third term that Obama can wash his hands of. He can wash his hands. He can say, you know what? I could be as radical as I want to be, and I can destroy the country and really activate all the extremism that I really want from my radical teachings from Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dohrn and Weather Underground. And no one will put the blame on me. We'll get dumb Biden, who's a moron. We know he's a moron. I only had him as my vice president, even though he said during the Democrat debates that Obama was not qualified to be president. They still made him the vice president because he's well known in the Senate. He has a lot of control and pull when it comes to whipping the votes. And he's a recognizable face. Okay? Plus, he's a white male. That helps them because it counteracts the black president with a white male president so they can appease both sides because they consider all white people to be racist anyway. So it's like Kennedy did it with LBJ. Kennedy was a young guy, kind of not quite fully establishment. All right. He had different ideals. He was more of a conservative Democrat, really. I mean, nowadays he'd be considered a conservative. But they brought in LBJ because he had the same gravitas. He had impact in Congress, well known, well respected, had a lot of pull, could whip the votes. That's why they did it. Okay. But the difference here is when Biden became president, Biden was an idiot. And they knew they put Biden in there, kindly old gentleman, counteract him to Trump, and Obama could do whatever he wanted with Biden. He can make any extremist policy he wants to make, all so it can destroy this country from the inside out. And there's no doubts. In the 4 years, I mean, the 10 years prior, or the 8 years prior with Obama, but the 4 years that Biden was president, you can't deny the damage done by Biden / Obama. You can't deny it. And it was all by design. Transgenderism is, first off, racial division, bigger than we've ever seen, worse than we've ever seen. He was effectively turned black Americans, a lot of them, against white Americans. He painted white Americans as racist, specifically conservative Americans. Okay? They marshaled the media, the news media, against the public by two things, for two reasons. Number one, when Clinton was president, and they were extremists as well, they fell under the rules for radicals, all right? But Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, read that. Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, read that, and you'll see it marks lockstep with how the Democrats approach politics, okay? And the tactics they use. But they took people from Clinton's cabinet, like George Stephanopoulos, who was the campaign head of his campaign, right? When he was first running back in, 92? And he's now the head anchor, or was an anchor, for ABC News. They've infiltrated the media. So you have the news media infiltrated by Democrat operatives. You have the schools that have been turned into indoctrination centers. Elementary school through high school, your children are being indoctrinated with left-wing political agenda, extremist agenda, okay? Forced to regurgitate political left-wing talking points in order for them to even pass, right? Hell, when I was going to college, I went to a very liberal college, and in my college, this is mid-90s, and early mid-90s. So in college, one of my professors in particular, was giving me negative grades all the time, bad grades, because I would not spout political rhetoric, regurgitate it back at her. I remember calling on my mother and saying, "Mom, what do I do with this? I never get below a B on a paper. Why all of a sudden am I getting these bad grades?" I back everything up with facts. And she says, just give her what she wants. Give your professor what she wants. Get the grade and get out of there. It's not going to change who you are. You know what you believe. Just regurgitate nonsense and get your grade and pass the class and get done. So I played the game. And I still would fight this teacher in class on the daily. But when it came to the papers, I fed her bullshit. So that we have, that was then. That was in mid-90s. Now it's been elevated on steroids. The student bodies they're over 90% almost all of them are way over 90% Democrat versus Republican in terms of in terms of the faculty. So your conservative students don't have a chance. So they get you in high school, elementary through high school, kindergarten through high school. They get you in college when you are very malleable. You're easily influenced already in middle school and high school, and they control the Department of Education. But then they get you in college where you're trying to come to on your own. You're trying to find your own adult identity, and you're away from home for the first time. And you want to be your own person now. So they get you in college and they brainwash you over and over and over again. They force feed you their talking points and they force feed you their agenda. And so you're radicalizing young people for 16 years of their lives, for 16 years. Why else do you think that the Democrats want college to be free and want the taxpayers to pay for it all? Because to put kids in college gets them in their indoctrination re-education centers. That's what it does. So it's all part of the plan. See, Democrats always play the long game. They never play the short game. They say, okay, if we don't do it now, if it doesn't affect them now, it will in 20 or 30 years. And that's when we can make our move. It's the long game. And that's what they're doing. They've been started it very little at a time with the Clintons. And they kept elevating it. But the problem is they went too far overboard with their arrogance and hubris in the last 4 years under Biden. They went too far. Obama flexed too much, flew too close to the sun on wings of wax. And Obama got too ballsy. And he pissed off President Trump. He pissed off the populace. And we woke up to it. People started waking up to it, especially the young people who they so desperately need. And that's why they killed Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was changing the minds of young people, convincing them either not to go to college or to ignore their professors. They were following him, so they had to take him out. Because in the future, under Charlie Kirk, they'd lose the youth vote. And he was playing the long game. And they couldn't have that. They can't. The Republicans never play the long game. Never did. They always played the short game. There's always reaction instead of proaction. They'd react to something the Democrats did, and by that time, the damage has already been done, and it's very hard to undo it. That's why even when Biden was president for those 4 years, the cowardly Republicans never really fought him. You had a couple that would say something, but most of the time, they never fought him. Clowns like McConnell, Rand Paul, barely fights anybody. Lindsey Graham, they don't fight people. They want their whole careers are based on their political campaigns and their donors. That's what they do. That's why nothing ever gets done with Republicans, with the rhinos, with the pretenders to the throne. The firebrands are the ones that can get things done, and they're the ones that are getting shouted down because it's a big fraternity in Congress. It's a big fraternity. And like Jesse Ventura said it when he was the governor of Minnesota. He said it's like professional wrestling. In front of the camera, they're all fighting, but behind the scenes, they're all buddy-buddy. Until Trump. So what we had was Obama destroying everything. Aren't you giving too much credit to Obama, Brett? No, not at all. Not at all. Because he's patient zero for the virus that's infecting this country. Obama's patient zero. He has so destroyed 12 years now of him, 12 years of his policy to destroy this country. And here we are. And because of this, it's gotten worse and worse. Now think about this. We just talked about educational brainwashing for 16 years. You had media brainwashing with the Clintons and former Democrats all taking up notable seats in media so they can control propaganda. You have the it's the act that let me look it up real fast. It's the Trump just talked about this. The Smith-Mundt Act, 112th Congress. That's what it was. Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012. That was strictly an Obama thing. What is the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act? Basically, in summation, the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act allows the government to use the media for propaganda. That's what it does. Before, the government couldn't do that. Okay, they would hold the media would be held accountable for spreading misinformation. The Smith-Mundt Act, let's just read it. Amends the U.S. Information and Educational Exchange of 1948. That's how old this was. It amends the U.S. Information and Educational Exchange Act of 1948 to authorize the Secretary of State and the Broadcasting Board of Governors to provide for preparation and dissemination of information intended for foreign audiences abroad about the United States, including about its people, its history, and the federal government's policies through press publications, radio, motion pictures, the internet, and other information media, including social media, and through information centers and instructions. Authorizes the Secretary of the Board and the Board to make available in the United States motion pictures, films, video, audio, and other materials prepared for dissemination abroad or disseminated abroad pursuant to such act. The United States Internal Broadcasting Act of 1994, the Radio Broadcasting to Cuba Act, or the Television Broadcasting to Cuba Act. So basically, it allows them to use the media for propaganda. That's what it does. It wasn't authorized before, but Obama said, well, we got to do that because, like I said, we've got control of education, of classrooms. We got control of the anchors and some of the news stations in charge of that, but we want to make it where we can use them directly. Don't just rely on them to write stories. We, as the government, want to be able to throw out stories to cause them to write those stories to affect the minds of the Americans. A psyops, psychological operation, brainwashing, okay? This is the kind of shit that China does. This is what socialist countries do. You understand that? So, and then on top of that, look what it mentioned, because we're gonna keep going. It mentioned social media. First off, motion pictures, which we know have been all propaganda. The whole LGBTQ trans craziness has been injected into the theaters. The woke mind virus has infected Hollywood. That's why nobody sees movies anymore. They said the internet, and the internet's filled with government-controlled propaganda. But then you go social media. Obama had Schmidt from Google, had Zuckerberg from Facebook, had Jack from then Twitter, coming to the White House like every week to have meetings on how they're going to control the information that's being disseminated on social media, how to silence conservative voices, how to fix the algorithms so liberal talking points, extremist talking points are posted higher. How many people were shadow banned on Twitter before Elon Musk bought it? I know I had several accounts that were shadow banned, including my own. Okay? This was the plan. So they say, okay, we got kids that are being indoctrinated from basically 5 years old up till about 22, 23. We have families that are being force-fed news. That's propaganda. What do the kids do, though? The kids are on social media, so we want to infect social media and propagandize through that as well. And we want to dissuade them away from religion and the church through that propaganda. This is what they did. This was all part of the long game, folks. This is what they were doing. And because of this, Think about it. You have this shooter, this jackass, this piece of shit who killed Charlie Kirk, 22-year-old, right? Boyfriend was another trans crazy out there. It's just what it is. It is what it is. I call it like I see it. There's LGB, which is cool. You're a lesbian, you're gay, you're bisexual. No problem. It's the T and the Q that are screwed up. They're the ones that are absolutely insane. I mean, they're insane. Need to be put into mental institutions because they're that insane. And you have a group. Look at the shootings that happened. Holy crap. There's a list here. Here we go. Denver shooter, trans. Aberdeen shooter, trans. Nashville shooter, trans. Philadelphia shooter, trans. Colorado Springs shooter, non-binary. Iowa shooter, gender fluid. Minneapolis shooter, trans. Charlie Kirk shooter had a trans partner. That should tell you all you need to know. And they're saying that on Discord, there was this like network of people that were talking. This trans group that's now being under investigation by Kash Patel, okay, and the FBI, who were talking about, conspiring some big things happening on September 10th. They were planning this. I mean, why weren't we monitoring this anyway? But now we have to. Now they're on a terrorist watch list, probably because they weren't on a terrorist watch list. Now they should be. Now they will be. See, the war it's now it's war. I mean, it's been war, but now it's going to be exacerbated, and it needs to be because we've had a loss. Okay? We've had a loss. Like the shooting at Boston Commons. This is the catalyst that starts the war. This is the catalyst that raises the bar. Like the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in World War I. This takes it up a notch. Now it's war. Are you saying we should have violence? I didn't say violence. I'm saying war. There's different types of war, right? We have to go with legal warfare. We have to go with ideological warfare. We can't tolerate their crap. We do have to fight back and defend ourselves. I don't tolerate that. I'm not even in any way condoning going out and shooting or hurting anybody from the other party. I'm not saying do that. But we need to muster up and get stronger and get more vitriolic in our passion and what we believe to fight against these enemies of this country and of our way of life, these enemies against God. Because for lack of a better definition, everything Obama's done, he's the Antichrist. In that definition, he is. I mean, he's destructive. Destructive. So they're brainwashing all these people. And again, they get this 22-year-old piece of shit who killed Charlie Kirk, right? Well, think about this. Just the last 10 years, since 2015 to 2025, it's 10 years of them calling Trump and his supporters Nazis, fascists, threats to democracy, right? Here's example. Jamie Lee Curtis. Now she's crying. Now she cries. She was doing, TMZ had audio of her crying. She's so upset because Charlie Kirk, I don't know, I disagree with him and everything he stands for, but he had children and he took away his children. This is your party. This is your party. I saw this online here. This is your party. The people with whom you break bread are the ones who spoke the words on loop calling Trump, Charlie Kirk, and their supporters Nazis, fascists, and threats to democracy. Your people are responsible for his death. To cry about it now is akin to those who killed Christ, then lamenting in his crucifixion. Why doesn't he just save himself? They cried as Christ hung from the cross for our sins. They were sad because they crucified this man and realized their mistake. That's the Democrats. Some of them are actually regretting it. They've done so much damage and destroyed Charlie Kirk, his wife, and his 2 children, a 3-year-old little girl and a 1-year-old boy, a 3-year-old little girl who knows her father, knows enough that he was there and she had his touch and his love and his physical presence. But now she'll never know him again. Not like that. She'll never grow up with her father. He'll never see her first date, never go to a father-daughter dance. He'll never see her go to prom or walk down the aisle, and she'll have to do this without her father. And she'll never feel it. How many of us remember when we were 3? I have like 3 memories of me when I was 3 years old. 3 that I recall that are hazy. But I remember 3 things, except for stories that people have told me. But I don't remember anything. I don't remember smells. I don't remember feelings. Hell, I can't remember feelings of when an animal dies, how it felt to pet them. I don't remember that. Imagine you're 3, and your father's gone. And then a 1-year-old boy who will never know his father. He doesn't even know who his father really is. He was just starting to really recognize his father at 1. And these sons of bitches killed this man, destroyed his wife, and he's 31 just for speaking fucking words. Just for saying words, saying things they could not agree with, would not agree with, and could not defend against. And that's the thing. They couldn't silence him. They couldn't beat him in a debate. So they had to physically silence him by killing him. This is unacceptable. This is unforgivable. I don't give a shit what Democrat says. Oh, we're really sorry. This shouldn't happen. Oh, prayers for Kirk. Fuck you. Fuck you. You get none of my mercy. None of my forgiveness. But Brett, that's not very Christian. I'm not Christ. I'm not Christ. Christ would have forgiven you. I don't. You're shit. And I will do everything in my power to destroy what you believe in. I want to force conservatism. I want to convey the message. I want to be just another voice, but another strong, impassioned voice. I'm not going to, we have to be better. Fuck that. I'm not going to be better. I'm going to destroy them on their own turf, in their own terms. They want to fight. You have to fight dirty. Did Patton take it easy when he was at war? No. He plowed forward. The best defense is a good offense. Offense first. You keep hitting. We can't. They will keep hitting. And if we don't keep hitting, they're going to run roughshod because, again, they play the long game, folks. They don't care. They'll take their sweet old time. Look at the gas prices. Think about this. Let's do a little comparison on gas prices. Just a small version of it, okay? When Al Gore was running for president in 2000, he said that he wanted gas to be $5 a gallon so it would dissuade people from buying gasoline, and then we'd be more prone to buying electric cars. He didn't win. Bush comes in. Bush leaves office, kept gas prices good. Bush leaves office. Obama comes in. What happens? Okay, well, I'm sorry. But gas prices did go up a little bit under Bush, right? Persian Gulf War, or 9/11, all that crap, Iraq War. But they got up to about $3.50, closer to $4. People started to balk a little bit at that. And they said, no, that's right. It was under Bush. It was under Obama. Obama, gas prices got to $4. So Bush kept them at bay. It went up a little bit, but they got to $4 under Obama, $4 a gallon. And people freaked out. They were livid. And Obama said, well, it wasn't because gas prices are $4. It's because it got there too quickly. So what happened? They walked the prices back to $2.50. $2.50 is the sweet spot. People aren't going to be too pissed at $2.50. So let's put it at $2.50. It was, a buck and change before that. Now it's $2.50. Now you fast forward. Trump comes in, gas prices go down to about $1.70. But then here comes Biden, Obama's third term. Gas prices jack up to almost $5 a gallon. People throw a fit. Oh, can't have that. That's terrible. And they go, all right, well, let's see. We got it to $5. Let's walk it back. What's a sweet spot for them now? $3.50 is a sweet spot. Let's try that. It's not $5 anymore, and we got it down to $3.50, so it looks better for you. And they bring it to $3.50. They keep moving the goalposts. Look at California. Gas prices are over $7 a gallon. Almost $8 in that state. That's what they want. If Harris, God forbid, oh, thank God she didn't. The Lord God saved us. If she took office or another radical leftist takes office, they're going to push gas prices up to $6, $7 a gallon. They're going to try to go that high just to walk it back until they get to that $5 a gallon. They play the long game. If it takes 10, 20, 30, 40 years, they don't care. They just want their end result. And that's what they're doing. So we have to fight them in the avenue of the arena of ideas, of ideals. Our religion, our culture, our patriotism, we have to fight them every single day. Conveying our message, shouting them down. If they get loud, we get louder. Do we get violent? No. We will respond. I'd be more than happy to respond if they come at me. More than happy. But we're never going to initiate. Don't have to. We don't have to. There's going to be, I hate to say it, but there's going to be people out there who might want to do it. I'm not condoning that at all, but there are people out there. I mean, what happened when Christ died? And I'm not comparing directly Charlie Kirk to Christ. I'm not saying he's Christ. I'm saying he was a messenger. Charlie Kirk was a messenger. Mentioned the Bible, the teachings of God, mentioned Christ in everything he talked about. He said things that the establishment didn't care for. The Sanhedrin didn't care for what Christ was saying. The Romans didn't care for what Christ is saying. So we go Romans, Republicans, Sanhedrin, Democrats, something along those lines. The establishment Republicans and Democrats didn't like what he was saying, more so than the Sanhedrin. They say we're going to kill him. They take out Christ. And now that he's gone, his followers are that much more impassioned. Charlie Kirk is more powerful now than he was when he was alive. You strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. And with the fall, the death of Christ, his followers mobilized and spread his word further and further across the globe. But there were some who were extremist. There were some who were very radical, a little crazy. And they took matters in their own hands. The zealots, they got over eager, violent, extreme. You can't have that. There might be people that do that. I don't condone it. We can't have it, but you created it. Democrats, you created it by constantly tormenting people for over a decade. Think about it. Went after Trump, tried to assassinate President Trump twice. You killed Charlie Kirk. You just tried to destroy Trump's wife, his children, his home, his wealth, his businesses. You took his allies and his friends and you arrested them on fake charges and put them in jail. You took innocent people who were just walking around inside the Capitol building on January 6th and you imprisoned them with no trial for 4 or 5 years. You did all this. You attacked us online, on social media. You perpetuated violence by inciting race wars, racial discrimination, and hatred toward white people. Obama did that. Solely Obama was responsible for that bullshit. To a point where a young woman from Ukraine, a white woman, is stabbed to death on a train by a monster just a few days before poor Charlie Kirk gets killed. This racist son of a bitch who said, I got that white girl, who they're now trying to get, they've now released from prison, FYI, who had been under 14 different convictions. And the judge who released him was a DEI hire who ran a chicken stand in Minnesota. And then she moved to North Carolina? And she was appointed a magistrate judge, and she didn't even go to fucking law school. She didn't pass the bar, but they named her a magistrate judge. And what she would do, she would release the guy and send it to her friend who had some social development center or some crap. So she gave her friend business by releasing prisoners. So here's a guy who's arrested 14 times, released, kills another person, and he's still released. Still released. still paroled, which is a bunch of bullshit. That's where we are. This is where we are. Obama's created trying to create a race war. He's trying to create an ideology war. He's trying to create a war through orientation and sex and gender. Because you believe who you want to believe. Some say Obama was gay. Some say that Michael Obama is a guy, is a tranny. Some say that. I don't know. Joan Rivers said it, and she was dead shortly thereafter. Just saying. Just saying. But it's not a coincidence that the trans movement has raised exponentially and become extremist under Obama's third term. Starting under Obama, but exacerbated under his third term. We'll talk about that in a separate show. Because the trans movement is dangerous. It's dangerous. If you're using hormones to change your body chemistry and your body doesn't want that, you're going to go crazy. You're going to go crazy. These people are crazy. And they've been convinced that everyone hates them, that everyone wants to kill them. Notice everything Democrats say, that everyone wants to kill these people. Republicans want to kill black people. Republicans want to kill the transgenders. And what's that going to do? It's going to inflame these people. It's going to cause violence. We had nothing but trans shooters. It's a shame. But this is where we are. We're at war. It's just bottom line. So it's C day plus 5, conservative day plus 5. It's war. What else can you say? Again, different kind of war, not a physical war. Not condoning that. An ideological, political, religious war. Because it's God's soldiers versus Satan's. That's what it is. The devil wants to take over this country. He wants to destroy what we believe in. It started with Obama. This is not a Christian nation. But this is where we are. So, I am back as a voice that's not going to be as pleasant. Because I don't have time for pleasant anymore. I don't have time for it. I don't want to make jokes and make light of stuff. See, when Rush Limbaugh, the great Rush Limbaugh was on the radio, I remember him saying, when Democrats, this is back when Clinton was president, he said, when Democrats are out of power, they're funny. And when they're in power, they're scary. Because they could enact the crazy policies that they believe in which they believe. Sadly, they're scary out of power and scarier in power. But they're frightening as hell out of power because they're desperate. And the hatred that's permeated their followers for decades, it's coming to fruition now. And it's destroying this country. That's the objective. And it's going to go after conservative voices. So we just have to band together and be strong and fight them on their own turf. Play their own game. They want to get dirty, we get dirty too. That's what I have to say for this episode of Brett Hightower Show on New Independence Network. Thank you for listening. Check back again. We'll keep going and we'll keep fighting this war. God bless America.